in September this year. So in efforts to make people, both patients and clinicians or doctors, be familiarized with pediatric oncology or at least with the more common oncology cases. So let's watch this short video. Sorry, walang sound na naririnig.
Wala po do.
Wait ha. I will try another format. How about this one? Meron na?
Dok, wala po wala po naririnig.
Okay. Oh no. Pwede ba kayo, pwede ba kayo mag-suggest kung ano kaya ang kulang ko? Baka nasa settings ko lang eh. Audio.
Ay, Dok, kanina pa naka-mute po yung mismong video kanina sa PowerPoint.
Sige. I will try again.
Kaso stuck po ata yung screen niyo po ngayon dito sa
Ah,
Zoom.
oh. Pinalitan ko siya. Etong screen ngayon is, ayan, nakikita ko naman yung PowerPoint ko. Eto,
Wala pong sounds, Dok.
ah, sorry. Sige. Hmm, kung wala siyang sound, we have to proceed. So, ipapadala ko na lang to if ever to the department para makita nyo siya or ma-view nyo at the latter time. Sige. Last attempt.
Wala po talaga, Dok.
Okay, let's move on. Pero, ipapadala ko na lang yan sa inyo para makita niya rin siya. Very short lang yan. Pero, marami na kayong makukuha. Okay. So for today, these are the same objectives. Actually, medyo magulo yata yung nasend. Dalawa yata objective na nasend ko during the PDF. Pero this is to discuss basically the impact of oncologic disorders on this oncologic disorders on the quality of life of pediatric patients. and to identify the common childhood malignancies. So there are basically two. Mamaya makikita nyo yung main division nila, but they are the hematologic malignancies and the solid tumors. So another objective is to be able to select proper diagnostic tests and procedures to confirm our diagnosis and to discuss some principles of treatment modalities used in this disease entity. So the main source for this is Nelson, Textbook of Pediatrics, I think part 20, kung tama yung pagkakatanda ko. And then some were lifted, yun dun sa PDF nyo, from this write-up from the World Health Organization. So let me introduce to you my favorite boy band. So I need you to answer para naman nakikita ko if you are listening or kahit pahapyaw lang. So if I ask some questions and the answer is yes, you write BTS. And if it's a no, you write 7. So do you understand? Nako, ano na? Hindi ba
Yung
kayo hindi ba kayo makakasagot?
yung chat po kasi diretso po sa department po
Ay
kasi.
nako, wag na natin gawin, makikita ng department. Just kidding. Sige. Pero, sayang, di ko pala nakikita. Anyways, sige nako, second, ano na natin to? Second X. So, let's try. So, this is a photo which summarizes the common cancer types for pediatrics. So, on your left side, you will see actually included are the percentages. So these are rough estimates, ano? So you see that majority is composed of the hematologic malignancies, almost half, around 40 to 50%, and then followed by the tumors of the central nervous system or the brain tumors, okay? And then the other common ones. The other common ones are the malignancy of the liver, the hepatoblastomas, the retina or the retinoblastomas, the sarcomas. Sarcomas are quite varied, pero if we talk about the bones, makikita niyo later ano yung two main bone malignancies, and nephroblastoma or the cancer of the kidneys. So, um, if we ask ourselves, meron bang difference yung adult and childhood malignancies? So, ano sa tingin nyo? Sorry ha, can someone from the group tell me if meron ng medical oncology na lecture? Meron na ba? Pag walang sumasagot sa akin, tatawagin ko yung group ko. So, so wala pa, med-onco. Ano?
Meron po, but principles of treatment mostly.
Okay. Hindi na nila they were not able to list down kung ano yung mga more common malignancies in terms of the organ systems. No?
Parang this year, hindi pa po.
Okay. Thank you for that, Anna. Sige. So the main difference between adult and childhood malignancies is that childhood malignancies are said to be ang current um prevailing etiology niya is mainly about the genetics. So meron ng genetic problem to start with. And theory is that I think if you were able to read about retinoblastoma, or baka kasi na-discuss na rin sa OFTA. So, retinoblastoma, sila yung, sa kanila usually nababanggit yung two-hit theory. So, in the two-hit theory, you have acquired since birth an abnormality in your genes. But you need a switch. So, yung switch is the second hit. So, hindi, yun yung prevailing na school of thought regarding etiology of childhood malignancy. Unlike in adult, kung saan they are mostly lifestyle and age related. Okay? So these are the main categories of childhood malignancy. They are broadly divided into two. So the hematologic malignancies, which includes your leukemias or the blood cancers, and lymphoma. And then the solid tumors. This is kind of misnomer because lymphomas are solid tumors as well. Okay? But for the solid tumors, these are the more common ones. Brain tumors, napakaramihan. Okay? And then retinoblastoma, the tumors that are usually found in the abdomen are your differential for abdominal tumors, which are neuroblastoma, Wilms tumor, and hepatoblastoma, and your differentials for a bone tumor. Yun yung osteosarcoma and Ewing sarcoma. And then the muscle tumors or the rhabdomyosarcoma. What are the usual signs and symptoms of a patient with malignancy? Particularly, let's start with the hematologic malignancy. So you have fatigue and loss of appetite. So you have to be very wary in terms of history taking, especially if the history is stretched or is longer than 2 weeks. So you have to elicit some signs or some possibility or symptoms of malignancy. Minsan kasi hindi nila alam. So you have to ask them. So there is note of fatigue and loss of appetite, shortness of breath, weakness, bone or joints, tenderness or pain, enlargement of the liver, and then systemic wise, you have weight loss, fever, and frequent infections, lymph node swelling, enlargement of the spleen, and skin changes. For instance, pinaka-common, easy bleeding and bruising, and purplish patches or spots. So if we try to um if we try to think about it or try to um understand more, at saan nanggagaling if this is leukemia or the blood cancers? You have to go back to the basics. So, ano ba ang pinoproduce or what is produced in your bone marrow? Because these are basically problems in the bone marrow. So, you have your three main components. I think Dr. Castro lectured about this. So, actually four, but the three main ones are the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the platelets. So imagine if you have a problem in the bone marrow, all those three can be deranged, which will cause a low hemoglobin, a low oxygen carrying capacity of the blood will bring about fatigue and shortness of breath as well as weakness. The pain or the tenderness and the swelling usually are due to proliferation of the cancer cells in the bone marrow. Okay? The skin changes, for instance, like easy bleeding and bruising, or the purplish patches or spots, are either accumulation of the cancer cells um, in the subcutaneous level, or you have a low platelet count. So the low platelet count would be the one causing easy bleeding and bruising. They are low because the problem of an increased white blood cell, particularly the immature ones, are causing depression of production of the other components, such as the red blood cells and the platelet count and the platelets. So other warning signs in general for both hematologic and the solid tumor. So you have pallor, bruising, and bleeding or general bone pain again. Lumps or swelling, especially if this is painless and is not associated with fever or other signs of infection. Unexplained weight loss, persistent cough, shortness of breath, sweating at night. Eye changes. So let's focus about number 4 for a while. So this is the importance of your red-orange reflex on your PE, especially for children less than 6 years old, because this is the age group where retinoblastoma is the highest. So this is the reason why before you send a patient from the nursery home, you are going to check for the red-orange reflex. And then abdominal swelling. There are many organs in the abdomen. So any organ can cause or can produce a malignancy or a tumor. So abdominal swelling is possible. Headaches, especially if unusually persistent or severe, associated with vomiting, which can indicate increased intracranial pressure. Tapos limb or bone pains or swelling without trauma. So you have to elicit a history of trauma in every complaints of a bone pain or a mass in the extremities. Fatigue, lethargy, and changes in behavior, especially if it is concentrated or the mass can be located in the central nervous system. And dizziness and loss of balance, also at the central nervous system. Other tumor-related clinical symptoms. So I think this chart, nandun naman yan sa binigay na PDF, so you can browse through it. But ano ang purpose nitong slide na to? It only means to say na maraming possible presentation ng different malignancies in childhood. You have to first check anong area ba yung affected and what structures are in those area, what structures can cause problems. Okay. Next, diagnostics wise. So, hindi ko kayo makita na makakasagot. So this is a sample of a complete blood count. But I would like you to check the other parameters, yung mga nakablanko. So these are the tests and these are the results. These are the normal values. Usually ganyan naman yung format ng CBC. You are able to do interviews in your patient, but I'm not sure if you were able to check their laboratory tests or the results of their laboratory tests. But if you have a chance, check nyo siya and then you check the parameters being reported. Okay, so for this particular patient, this is a complete blood count, and the complete blood count is usually requested in every consult. Okay, but for this kind of results, you have to be very wary about the possibility of a malignancy. So why? Let us check the three main components of the blood in terms of the complete blood count. You have the red blood cell count, but we usually check the hemoglobin, which for this patient is very low. So the normal values, she is a female, are usually between 12 to 16, and she has 6.2 grams of hemoglobin only. So you have one abnormal parameter in your three cell lines. So the cell lines are the red blood cells, the WBCs and the platelet. Okay. So for the WBC count, the WBC count is normal. Okay, it is within the range, but the differential count, meaning the types of the WBC present and their proportions are markedly abnormal. Okay? For a 4-year-old, you have to refer back to your books kung ano yung common count and percentage. Nag-iiba siya based on the age group. That's the beauty of pediatrics. You have many values, different values for different age group, but you have tables to refer to for that. Okay? So for this particular patient, lymphocytes are at 95% when it should be a segmental predominant count for a 4-year-old. Okay, so that is one warning sign. And then your platelets. Ano ang normal na platelets? So dapat alam niyo yung normal platelet count ha, because hindi lang siya critical for hematologic malignancies, but the more common ones that we see are dengue fever. Dengue fever, di ba, yan yung main pathology or main abnormality sa CBC nila. And the normal count should be 150 to 450. So siya is markedly abnormal din. Okay? So you have two cell lines, the hemoglobin and the platelet count, who are abnormal. The WBC count, the one cell line that is normal, has an abnormal differential count. So technically, all cell lines are abnormal. So if this is the case, you have to explore more. Okay? So what is your next test? Oh, sige. So getting the count, if you have abnormalities in the CBC, one way of checking is to view the peripheral blood smear. I think many of or a significant number are medical technologists, ano? So you have to help your other classmates on this one, pero this is just the basic. We were taught this during anatomy and histology. So the ones on your right are the normal WBC morphology. They are the normal picture of a mature WBC that can be seen in the peripheral blood. Yung kinukuha nyo as venipuncture. Yan yun. The one in the left side are abnormal. They are abnormal because they are a bit different from the ones in the right. Okay? And they closely resemble the ones in the third row. Okay? And these are the lymphocytes. Okay? And these are mature lymphocytes. The ones on the left are immature lymphocytes or the blasts. So this is what you see in a peripheral smear of a patient with leukemia. Okay? Particularly lymphoblastic leukemia. So from your readings or from the PDF sent, there are two main types: the lymphoblastic leukemia and the myeloid leukemia. Lymphoblastic leukemia, you have problems in these cells, the lymphoblast. The myeloid leukemia, you have the problems on the all other cell types, such as the neutrophils, the monocytes, the eosinophils, and the basophils. The red blood cells and platelets will also fall under myeloid leukemia. An abnormality in them would fall under myeloid leukemia. So if you have this in your peripheral smear, you have to check the bone marrow. So how do you do that? You do a bone marrow aspiration. Okay? So in a bone marrow aspiration, gagawin mo rin kung ano yung ginawa mo doon sa peripheral blood smear. You have to check the morphology or the picture of the cells, how they look like under the microscope. So This is just to show you how it looks like, in a microscope. The one on the upper left um, side is a scanner view. You do this, you check this just to make sure that you have cells in your aspirate because sometimes wala. And there are other cases, I think, baka na-mention ni Dr. Castro ang aplastic anemia. In aplastic anemia, you have paucity of cells. Okay? So dito, if you check, meron kang mga nakikita na pinpoint na dark purple or bluish cells. So I think okay naman, meron tayong nakuhang cells nung nag-aspirate tayo. And then you shift to a low power view. You will magnify the field 10 times at least. Okay? So, anong gagawin natin? Iko-confirm lang natin. Mukhang meron pa rin, ano? There are blue cells or basophilic cells in this field. The ones that are parang salmon colored are red blood cells. Okay? The purplish, basophilic, bluish ones are the white blood cells. You have to view it at a higher magnification. May isa pang magnification for the benefit of the non-medtech undergrad students. So meron pang high power which will magnify the field 40 times. Pero skinip ko na siya, diretso na tayo sa oil immersion view. In the oil immersion view, you magnify the slide to about 100 times. Okay? So this, you see the cells closely. You have to evaluate, ano ba tong mga cells na to? Remember, you are in the bone marrow. So you are expecting to see immature cells in the bone marrow. Doon sila na-form. You do not see dapat or you do not observe immature cells in the peripheral blood because when they go out of the bone marrow, dapat mature na sila. Okay? So, ito, if you look closely, magkakatsura sila. They look the same, but different sizes. Okay? And some are small, some are medium-sized cells. Wala pa dito yung mga large cells. Okay? But they look the same. In a bone marrow, hindi siya dapat pare-pareho. Dapat meron kang variation. Okay? Dapat all cell lines are present. Okay? And this particular one, isang cell line lang siya. Okay? Dalawa, if you consider the red blood cells, but we will not look at the red blood cells because we have an abnormality in the WBC already. So, doon tayo magpo-focus. Now, it's time. I-ask mo, we know kung what are these. These are lymphoblasts. Okay. Gone are the days na pwede kang mag-treat or mag-clinch ng diagnosis with morphology. Although we do that also, especially in remote areas where the flow cytometry is not yet available, but there are many types of leukemias. So it is ideal to subject your aspirate to um, a specific test, which is the basic leukemia panel or the flow cytometry. So at this point, you have an idea na. You have an abnormality in the WBC, particularly the lymphocytes. And this is a sample of a flow cytometry report. So this, you can see what particular leukemia type it is. So yung nandyan sa taas na naka-encircle ng red, these are the impression. So, yan yung summary, kumbaga. So, for this particular case, consistent siya with B lymphoblastic leukemia, and you were able to identify the immunophenotype. So, what is the importance of the immunophenotype? Clinically, they show or they give clues regarding the prognosis. First, they will tell you what type of leukemia it is because there are B lymphoblastic leukemia and there is a T lymphoblastic leukemia for the T cells. Okay? and the myeloid leukemia. So for this one, the immunotype will tell you if this is a possible standard risk or a higher risk leukemia. So the ones that I like about is this particular case is a CD10 positive leukemia. So the likelihood of us treating, bringing this patient to remission is high because CD10 is a good prognosis marker. Okay? So pag nakita niyo to, huwag kayong matakot. Pero mas nakakatakot yung next slide kasi madami siya. Yan. Yan lang yung scatter plots. Okay? Ang ginawa nila, they just summarize it in this form. Nakasulat na. I don't think you need to know this at this point, but suffice enough to just be familiar na this is how a flow cytometry report looks like. Okay? So let's go to the next test that we usually ask for. We ask for the blood chemistry, particularly a liver function test, a kidney function test, a screening test for the kidney, which is creatinine, a uric acid test, the liver function test, AST and ALT, and then the electrolytes, sodium, potassium, kulang ito. Ideally, meron tong kasamang calcium and phosphorus. At the latter end of our discussion, ibibigay ko sa inyo yung importance nila. And LDH. So, tingnan natin kung ano yung result niya ha. The creatinine is normal. The uric acid is high. The ALT and AST is a little bit high, but I think mga 1.5 times elevated lang naman siya. Hindi siya ganun ka-significant. ALT is normal. So what did we learn from, saan ba tinuro yun? Patio or chem? Ano ang difference or ano ang use ng ALT and AST for the kidneys? ALT is usually very specific for liver dysfunction. So, medyo good pa tayo kasi the ALT, kahit na mataas ang AST is normal. And then the sodium and potassium. The LDH, tandaan nyo siya, sky high siya. That is 4 to 5 times elevated. So, other diagnostic test is the coagulation profile. Basically, the PT or the prothrombin time and the PTT, the partial thromboplastin time. So what is the significance of this test in terms of malignancy? We know its significance in coagulopathies, yung lecture nyo from hematology. But ano ang gamit niya in terms of malignancies? Some malignancies, they push the patient to a state of coagulation deficiency, mainly because of the abnormal cells that they produce. Okay? So it is important to check also because mainly for the leukemias, you have an abnormal platelet already. So your primary hemostasis is affected already. So you have to check your secondary hemostasis. The factors that are responsible for the secondary hemostasis, you can check it, di ba, based on the lecture or based on your hematology lecture from the PT and the PTT. Ang very notorious for this are the myeloid leukemia, particularly one subtype, yung acute promyelocytic leukemia. So, yun yung importance ng coagulation profile. In terms of the solid tumors, Wilms tumor also cause an abnormal coagulation profile because they have an acquired von Willebrand factor deficiency. So, if you want to really dive deep into this, you have to recall the coagulation profile. Okay, so hindi siya madali, pero if you want to see kung saan yung affected na factor, you can go back to that to that image or to that figure. Cardiac function. We also request for a baseline cardiac function in these patients. Wala talaga. Hindi ako makakapagtanong. And hindi kayo makakasagot din. So, yung cardiac function, we basically ask for the screening test. So, an ECG and a 2D echo. And the main function of this is because one of your treatment options for cancer is chemotherapy. And your chemotherapeutic drugs have a lot of adverse reaction. And the older and the more commonly used ones can cause cardiac dysfunction, both an acute cardiac problem or a chronic cardiac problem. So you have to be sure regarding the function of the heart. So baka magtaka kayo pag nandun kayo sa ward, bakit kaya siya nagpapa-cardiac function? Eh ang layo naman ng mass doon sa heart or doon sa thoracic area. Wala namang mass, leukemia naman yung problem. So bakit siya nagpapakuha ng cardiac function? So that is the main reason. You have to establish a baseline cardiac status. Next, tumor markers. We have tumor markers available. Hindi nga lang lahat ng malignancy. So there are malignancies that can be diagnosed based on the tumor markers. So from our example, few slides back, we saw an LDH that is sky high. 5 times elevated is high. So LDH is a surrogate marker. It is very non-specific. It will just tell you na yes, there is a possibility of a malignancy, of a rapidly proliferating cell. Yun lang yung sasabihin niya sa'yo. And it tends to be elevated in advanced disease. The trend usually correlates with response to treatment. That's why you get a baseline LDH and then you monitor it in several steps of your treatment. Okay? AFP, what is AFP? AFP is alpha fetoprotein. Okay? BHCG is beta HCG. And VMA is vanillin mandelic acid. Okay, so AFP and beta HCG are usually elevated in germ cell tumors. Okay, and VMA is usually elevated in neuroblastoma. So baka makita nyo yan during your rotation pag nasa hospital na kayo. So these are the possible tumor markers to request. So next is radiographs. Imaging na tayo. So radiographs, this is an example of a chest X-ray of a patient with mediastinal mass in the anterior view and in the posterior, in the lateral view. And you can see this is the silhouette of the heart. And this is the silhouette of the mass, which appears to be located in the posterior mediastinum. Nasa likod siya. So ano yung mga common masses sa posterior mediastinum? They are usually related with the neurobundle. So these are mainly neuropathic masses. Okay? So radiographs are very important as screening. Kasi you want to see if there is a gross mass or gross abnormality. Okay? Next in our imaging is ultrasound. Medyo familiar naman tayo sa ultrasound, ano? Pero ultrasound is screening mo lang talaga siya. Kasi it cannot clearly delineate the mass and its effect to its surrounding structures. So if you are considering a mass specifically in the abdomen to usually nagagamit or in certain extremities, pag nasa extremity yung masses, you want to see a baseline status or to screen ano ba yung bukol na yon. Is it cyst or mass? Is it fluid filled or solid? So you ask for an ultrasound. But you will eventually have to ask for a more definitive imaging such as a CT scan. CT scan, very important in ito ang screening ng intracranial masses. If you are considering an intracranial mass, you go for a CT scan. You have to you heard about contrast studies, ano? So there are plain studies and then there are studies that you have to infuse a dye or the contrast studies. But in case of emergencies, CT scan na plain should be a good screening tool. But if you have time to prepare the patient and to evaluate the status, the general status of the patient, you go for a scan with contrast. Ito, ano to? Imaging pa rin siya, ano? So, this is a magnetic resonance imaging. So, specifically useful for tumors that are intimately related to the central nervous system or to areas which are highly vascularized. Okay? So you request and areas which are um, usually pag marami kang nerve or neuro collection sa areas. Yun yung gusto mo because you want to see how they are related to the neuronal bundle or to the vascular bundle. Okay? So, ganyan ang tsura ng scan. So, you can see a mass. This mass actually, ang chief complaint nito ay neck. So, imagine a neck mass pero compressing a part of the central nervous system or the brain already. Okay? So, staging and risk assessment. So, we have to understand that if we are dealing with tumors and malignancies, we have to stage and assess the risk of the patient. Okay? There are different staging regimen for different malignancies. If we go back to our basic um, groups, yung hematologic versus solid tumors, meron silang kaunting difference. Okay? So, yung standard, intermediate, and poor risk, you will usually see this in the hematologic malignancies. If we watch movies or watch TV series, what we know of is the stages of the cancer. So stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's the usual staging scheme with stage 1 and stage 2 as the standard or intermediate risk. And stage 3 and 4 are usually the ones with advanced disease or those with metastasis to other areas. Okay? So, anong use niya? Okay? Why do you need to stage or to assess the risk of the patient? You use this to guide the treatment plan. Okay? Different stages, different regimen. Okay? The advanced stages usually have increased or a more number of chemotherapeutic agents used, even modalities. For example, for the standard risk, pwedeng chemotherapy lang. Depende on the type of the malignancy, ha? So, for instance, sa standard risk, chemotherapy will do. Pero pag poor risk na, baka kailangan mo ng surgery and ng radiotherapy. So later, makikita nyo naman yung ibang treatment options. It also allows prognostication. When you diagnose a patient with cancer or malignancy, you would have to discuss with the patient kung malaki na siya or with the decision makers, parents, caregivers regarding the prognosis of the patient. Kasi it will help them decide what do we mean by prognosis? Is this good risk or is this a poor prognostic case? Meaning the chances of bringing this patient to remission or cure is either low or high. Okay? So good, pag good prognosis, kasi ibig sabihin niya, you can bring the patient to cure. The chances of um, removing or treating the patient with cancer is high. Pero pag poor prognosis, ang ibig sabihin nun, the chances of treating the patient, making him cancer-free is low and is associated with a number or significant complications. Okay, so that's the importance. And you have to, staging and risk assessment will allow you to facilitate anticipation regarding treatment-related problems, complications. Okay, both complications coming from the disease or the cancer or complications coming from your treatment. Okay? Diagnostic PET scan is also part of the diagnostic. Pag binasa niyo yan sa libro, actually kasama na siya sa Nelson. And the problem is PET scan is very expensive. Okay? So kung ilagay mo siya sa diagnostics, this roughly cost about 60 to 80,000 at our setting. Okay? So pag this is how a PET scan would look. Okay? It will be able to show you areas of increased activity. Yung mga naka-black. And there is grading regarding the intensity of how it lights up. So mainly, maganda siya as diagnostic because it will able to show you the whole body and the possible areas of kalat or metastasis. Dahil mahal siya, we usually resort to CT scan or MRI of areas that we know of na usually napupuntahan or nakakalatan. Pero sometimes may mga areas na hindi na natin napapacheck. Okay? Pag ganun yung strategy mo, kung gusto mo siyang MRI lang or CT scan to check for this stage, certain areas lang yung mapipili mo doon. 1 or 2 lang. 3 at the most. But a PET scan can show you the whole body. Unfortunately, in our low and middle income setup, mahirap pa rin ito. But medyo marami nang nakakapag-comply with this. Ang kagandahan sa kanya, pag inulit mo siya in the following therapeutic, and ba makatapos kayo ng therapy sa kanya, you will be able to see improvement for progression. Okay? The problem with PET scan na mahal, baka pag ginamit mo to as your diagnostic tool, wala ka nang pangpagamot, ubos na. So you do not have enough funds already for treatment. So you have to weigh in terms of you have to consider the patient's resources when you request for this test. But don't get me wrong, you have to be able to explain to them that this is part of the diagnostic plan. But we are trying or we are pushing it back or we are letting it go at the meantime because of other considerations. Mainly resources yan. Wala tayong pambayad or pampagawa ng PET scan. Next. So we go to a procedure that can be both diagnostic and therapeutic and very important for the solid tumors. Okay? The biopsy. Okay? So sa hematologic malignancy, if we remember, you can see abnormalities already in the blood that you can test using your CBC, your peripheral blood smear, and your bone marrow aspiration. In terms of solid tumors and lymphomas, you have to provide a tissue diagnosis because they have to undergo several tests, several immunohistochemical characteristics should be labeled katulad nito. Bakit natin sinabi, bakit siya nakaseparate? Diagnostic and therapeutic. Because a biopsy, depending on how it is done, can be both. No? On most books or most journals, the preferred type is the excision biopsy. Meaning, if you have a mass, you try to take it all out and then subject the mass to several staining studies so you can label the immunohistochemical property. Okay? So, but hindi yan common. Actually, mas common pa yung incision, ibig sabihin, kukuha ka lang ng konti, fine needle, tutusok ka lang ng kaunti, and you aspirate, or the core needle biopsy. Mas malaki lang ng kaunti yung needle, pero ganun pa rin yung principle, hindi buo na tanggal. Okay? The problem with that is this. So, you refer to this particular result, non-specific most of the time yung nakukuha natin. And we do not want that. We want the specific type of um mass kasi hindi tayo makaka-plan for treatment if ganito yung result. Okay? So, punahin natin. Dito, sinabi niya na there are atypical lymphoid proliferation. And the consideration, reactive versus neoplastic. So, hindi pa rin siya 100% neoplastic. Okay? And these are types of the immunohistochemical results or results. There are many, and they are specific for certain cancers or malignancies. For instance, they requested this, I think, because they are considering lymphoma. These are markers for lymphoma. Let's check the next slide. Ito yung magandang report. Maganda because it was able to label what particular type of mass it is. And nasabi niya, based on the biopsy, and this is this is a core needle. O, tingnan mo, at this point, core needle biopsy lang ito. Pero they were able to say that it is a ganglioneuroma. This is what we want for a biopsy, because we can then proceed to treatment planning if you have a label of the mass. Okay? Next. Therapeutics na tayo. So we go to the therapeutics. This first three are the older therapeutic treatment modalities. Chemotherapy, you use drugs or medications. Surgery, you remove whatever the abnormality is, particularly yung mass or yung tumor. And then radiotherapy, you use waves. Okay? Ang goal mo is to halt or to stop the fast progression of the mass. Okay? There are newer treatment options. Immunotherapy is actually, we are using this already. Hindi pa lang lahat. Pero, meron na tayong mga nagagamit na immunotherapy. I'm not sure if you were able to come across, ang pinaka-common dito is rituximab in terms of chemotherapy. But the challenge with immunotherapy, you have to be able to identify the presence of the antigen in that specific, kasi usually antibodies and all. So you have to identify the presence of specific antigens in the mass itself. So kailangan maganda yung diagnostic mo. Kasi kung hindi naman siya present, hindi mo magagamit yung immunotherapy. For instance, rituximab. Rituximab is a CD20 monoclonal antibody. So, tingnan natin kung nagbanggit sila ng CD20 dito. Ayun, nagbanggit siya. So, sinabi niya, dapat dun sa cytology report mo, cytopathology result, na-mention ang CD20. And na-mention na positive din ang CD30. So, another immunotherapy is anti-CD30 monoclonal antibody, brentuximab. If you were able to come across it or baka narinig nyo, nabasa nyo somewhere. Yan yung mga immunotherapy. Okay? But we always have to remember we are dealing with pediatric patients. So pediatric patients, ang isa pa sa kailangan natin i-consider with them are their physical and cognitive growth and nutritional status. Pag adults kasi technically they are hindi na sila ganun kabilis in terms of growth and development. Kumbaga naka-establish na yung physique, naka-establish na yung cognition, okay na yung nutritional status nila. But in kids, ano pa yan, gumagalaw pa and dapat nagpo-progress. Pero in terms of problems like malignancies, pwedeng ma-hamper yan. So yan pa yung isa natin kailangan pagtuunan ng pansin if we are dealing with pediatric cancer patients. In terms of chemotherapy, actually, yung chemotherapy status natin ngayon is quite good. Marami na kasing studies. Dati, kung naririnig nyo, ang bone marrow transplant for the leukemias, dati doon talaga, isa-strive mo na umabot or magawa ang bone marrow. But bone marrow transplant is very expensive. And marami ka ring complications associated with it pre-bone marrow, during, and after the bone marrow transplant. With the recent advances in chemotherapy, samahan mo pa ng immunotherapy, sometimes hindi na umaabot sa bone marrow. We are able to remit or to treat the patient with chemotherapy alone. In 2023, yung WHO, naglabas sila ng list of the essential medicines kasama ang chemotherapy, especially yung mga basic and older chemotherapeutic regimen. Okay? So, ang goal nito, kaya nila nilabas, is sinasabi lang nila na dapat kahit sa low-income countries, middle-income countries, this subset or this set of chemotherapeutic agents should be present. Kung hindi, magre-reach out sila to give it to you. Okay? This is an example of a treatment protocol. So kung makikita nyo, but this is a treatment protocol for rhabdomyosarcoma. This is how we plan the treatment. May ganito ang mga patients natin. If we are planning already for the treatment and sinusunod natin siya. So you have the medications. These are the weeks, yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Minsan days yung nakalagay. Pero usually for the solid tumors, weeks yung nakalagay. And then you have the chemotherapeutic agents, kung ano yung ibibigay mo that particular day. And then time or yung time frame mo kung kailan ka mag-i-evaluate at certain points. And then ano yung other treatment regimen that you can use and when, such as radiotherapy. It should be included yung mga dose because these are highly toxic drugs. You have many complications. So you have to be guided in terms of the dose and the timing of delivery. Okay, yan lang yung example. Okay. Sige, in terms of emergencies, meron tayong mga oncologic emergencies. So this, you can see this either before diagnosis, during diagnosis, or during your treatment course. Okay? And these are mainly yung metabolic emergencies. Hyperleukocytosis, ibig sabihin you have a WBC count that is super high. In the books, ang leukocytosis, I think hyperleukocytosis is 50,000. Okay? And then tumor lysis syndrome, ito yung reason kung bakit tayo nagpakuha ng mga chemistries natin kanina. I think dadaanan natin. Meron. So, and associated electrolyte derangements. These electrolyte derangements usually would comprise your tumor lysis syndrome. Cardiothoracic emergencies, ito naman especially if the tumor is located in the mediastinum. So ano ang main organ system na nandoon? You have cardiovascular and the respiratory. So imagine, dalawang major vital organ ang tatamaan mo if you have a mediastinal mass. So you have to monitor or to check for these syndromes. Acute abdominal processes such as esophagitis, gastric hemorrhage, typhlitis. Typhlitis is usually seen in neutropenic patients during chemotherapy. Okay? And then renal dysfunction and hypertension, because most of the medications are nephrotoxic and many of them will be excreted in the kidneys and liver. That's why you requested for the liver function test and the kidney function test whenever you are starting or you are considering a malignancy. Neurologic emergencies, mainly for CNS leukemia, CNS tumors, or even in problems of other tumors in other parts of the body, but with electrolyte derangements. Either an electrolyte derangement or a problem in your bleeding. Kasi if you have an abnormal platelet and an abnormal secondary hemostatic counts, yung secondary hemostasis mo problematic, then you can have spontaneous bleeding. And the common areas of this spontaneous bleeding are the CNS and the kidneys and the GI tract, GIT, GUT, and the CNS. Endocrine emergencies usually seen in tumors of the central nervous system because it affects the pathways of hormones. Okay? And then treatment-related emergencies, for instance, anaphylaxis or hypersensitivity to the medications that you are giving. So imagine, pati yung problemahin mo pa. Tinatry mo na nga siyang gamutin, but yung paggamot mo or your treatment, your medication per se will cause problems. So, hindi siya madali. It is not an easy disease to deal with, but you always have to be guided by the risk versus benefit ratio. So, you always have to consider ano ba ang risk, ano ba ang benefit, ano ba ang mas makakabuti for the patient. Okay? Next, ito yung reason. So, balikan lang natin yung nakita natin kanina, no? We were able to request this, the kidney function test. Uric acid is elevated because your tumor cells are usually reducing this. And then the liver function for EST and ELT, potassium is normal, usually in tumor lysis syndrome because potassium is intracellular. Once magbigay ka ng gamot, medications that will address your tumor, minsan even hydration pa lang and the tumor or the cells are getting destroyed already, lalabas na yung potassium dun sa intracellular. So, tataas na siya doon sa peripheral. And potassium, you have to be very careful because the heart is sensitive to the dynamics of potassium. And then the LDH, our surrogate marker and our marker for treatment response. Supportive care. Supportive care also plays a major role in treating malignancies because your treatment plan can cause infectious complications, nausea and vomiting. It can cause pain. It can cause undernutrition. So you have to check and you have to support them in those terms. So for instance, pag nagbigay ka ng chemotherapy, you put the patient into myelosuppression. Ibig sabihin, kung hindi man bone marrow ang main problem, may effect pa rin yung treatment mo to the bone marrow. And it will cause underproduction of your cell lines. Particularly yung WBC count, which serves as your warriors. Di ba parang ang turo nga sa atin, soldiers. of the body, yung WBC. So without them, infection can ensue. So kailangan mo ng either a prophylaxis or a therapeutic infection plan. Okay? Nausea and vomiting is very important also. Yung mga patients, minsan ayaw nila mag-undergo ng chemo. Takot na takot sila because of this complication. Siguro we all agree naman na hindi masaya ang makaramdam ng nausea. And hindi din, it is not good to be vomiting or suka ng suka. Ano? So, there are antiemetic medications that we can give to control this. Mucositis, we can give treatment also for this. Pain management, we have to address this because siguro lahat naman tayo, we do not want to see a patient, kahit hindi naman cancer patient, who is in severe pain. So this is one of the things that we can focus on, especially if these are advanced stages, yung hindi mo na siya kayang gamutin. And you have come to terms to it. The least you can do is to make sure the patient is comfortable. And the big part of that plan is the pain management plan. Okay, nutrition. This is very important because if the body is undernourished, yung response niya sa treatment will be skewed. It will be different than someone who is at least well-nourished. So you have to take care of it also. Hematopoietic growth factors, because you bring you somehow elicit or push the patient to myelosuppression. So after bringing it down, you give support naman to bring the counts up. And yan yung gamit ng hematopoietic growth factors. If you've heard of filgrastim or the GCSFs, yan yun. Okay? Acute radiation side effects. Ano ang usually maiisip mo? A patient who underwent radiation, so burns the skin. Okay? So you have to check or you have to manage that also. CVCs, ano ang CVC? CVC is central venous catheters. Ano? So these are very helpful. Kasi lalo na sa pediatric patients wherein the veins are small and they easily nadadamage and you cannot use them. So with the central venous catheter, you are at least assured that you will be able to deliver the medications to the body. But not without possible complications. Minsan, nakapag-insert ka nga ng CVC, we're able to put a catheter in place, but it gets infected. Okay? Kaya dapat yung use of the catheters are managed well to avoid those kinds of complications. And then, halimbawa, we are able to bring the patient to remission. Post-treatment immunizations, we have to reevaluate again and we have to give immunizations again because technically you wiped it out during your treatment. Your both cellular and humoral response are already naive again. Okay? So you have to give post-treatment immunizations. Okay, another aspect of care, hindi lang naman ito for cancer patients, even those with chronic comorbidities. For instance, a congenital heart disease, chronic kidney disease, we have to consider palliative care, okay? So, sorry. Last slide na actually ito. So I think I was told na merong nasa ospital ba lahat na may earthquake drill. Okay. So I will leave this to you, but this is palliative care naman. This is part of the treatment and it only means that you have to consider all possible aspects of the patient, psychosocial, emotional, spiritual, financial, up to the point of the burial services and the bereavement. So this is another concept na introduced mainly associated with malignancies, but other chronic diseases also use this. Okay? This is actually my last slide. And then you can refer to your PDF to review more on onco and then part 2020 of Nelson. Sige, so this is my parting slide. Sana you were able to pick up one or two concepts that will help you in your clinics or basically pagpunta nyo na sa hospital. Sana kahit kaunti meron. But you can review naman the PDF. I'm not sure if I can pa questions kasi you have to move, no? You have to move for the earthquake drill. But if in case you have a question, you send it to the department and I'll try to answer it for you. Okay? Thank you for listening. I think we can call it a day.
Thank you po, Doc.
Thank you po, Doc.
Thank you.